we're stretching hip internal rotation. What am I stretching when I'm stretching into hip internal rotation?
External rotator.
Good. So, I'm just kidding. For someone like Mark, I actually have to balance him on my shoulders so I can make it tolerable. I could get onto the mat, but it's a narrow mat and I'd probably fall. So if I want to stretch him into internal rotation, I have him balanced on my hip, on my shoulder. My leg is into the mat to give me some stabilization, and I simply can move him in. You don't have that much. I can change the hip levels and see how his hip flexion is throughout the range if I really want to. Like he's got some nicer hip flexion here than he does up here. So I'm thinking muscle. Okay, so this is technically the textbook stretch where it's up slightly, but you can absolutely even just start from here and roll him into internal rotation, but he is fine here. He has no restrictions. A quick note, if you're just glancing at a picture, if the heel swings out, it's internal rotation. If the heel swings in, it's external rotation, because sometimes that can trip you up because you're looking at where the foot is and you're thinking internal and you're thinking external, but it's the opposite. Foot swings out, internal rotation at the hip. Foot swings in, external rotation at the hip. If I wanted to do, and if I'm in here in whatever limited hip rotation he has, and I wanted to do an agonist contract, okay, what are my agonists when I'm in internal rotation?
Don't dominate fine over it.
What am I? Don't worry about the actual muscles. What muscle group?
Internal rotation.
The internal rotators. So what am I having him resist? If I want the internal rotators to fire, I want him to resist external rotation. So I'm going to push him that way into external rotation. He has to resist external rotation. Okay? He has to resist with the internal rotators. Relax. Okay? Go ahead. Ready? Push? No, relax. Okay, ready? So I want the internal rotators to fire. I have to push into external rotation. Go. And relax. And now I push him more. And go ahead. And push him more. Relax. And that's really it. You're not getting much further than that. I actually think there's a little bit more. I think it's biomechanical. Yeah, I can feel there's a little bit more biomechanical. But that's the internal rotators. Okay, so I'm pushing him into external rotation, and he has to fire his internal rotators. Okay. I'll just go into external rotation. So if I want to stretch him into external rotation, it's the same thing. It's a little bit more clunky for me on the mat, but I want to take him into that external rotation. Okay, and that's actually plenty. If I want to take him into long lever, I can externally rotate him there, he's fine. So I'm not able to stabilize. I'm hoping that his body weight stabilizes, but if I see any motion in the pelvis, I may have to belt him or come up with a more creative way. Sometimes if you kneel, you can actually, I'm going to show. Yeah, you can use the weight that way, or if you are up on the table, I can very lightly press my leg onto his. I'm not leaning, my weight is on my back leg, but this leg will help me stabilize, and then I can move like that. Okay, so that's internal, external rotation. I think that's good. So try those, and we'll go from there.